Good afternoon, everybody. Introduce myself. My name is Howard Bostic, Emergency Response Tech Senior with CHART MDOT, Coordinated Highway Action Response Team. I would like to talk about the Work Zone Safety Group first. It's been a pleasure, and I would like to thank the Lieutenant Governor, the Governor, for putting all this together. And we came up with great ideas and sent them to the legislation, hope they get approved. And in short, I'm gonna share a story with y'all that I shared last time. I was working last year, December the 7th, 2022. I got a call for MVC with rollover, southbound JFX at Fayette Street. So I responded, got there, activated all the emergency equipment, airborne, put out at least 10 cones, and as soon as when I came from back around the truck and started talking to the fire department, I heard the lieutenant say, "Watch out." Somebody came down there, tried to get over at the last minute, and they hit my truck at 70 miles an hour. Luckily, I wasn't in it, but Lord, to say it was scary, it made me think my career choice, but I was okay. The people in the van was okay, and people, like I said last time when I did this with the Lieutenant Governor, help us, help you. And with that said, I want to turn it over to Mr. William Pine.
Well, thank you, Howard, for your harrowing words and for sharing personal experiences with us. Hello, everyone. My name is Will Pines, and I'm the administrator for Maryland State Highway Administration. I would like to thank Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller for inviting me today. Dangerous work zone encounters like Howard's are why this work group was so necessary. Together, we must do everything we can to keep our workers and motorists safe while driving through work zones. Safety is the top priority for the Maryland State Highway Administration. Work zone safety and keeping drivers, passengers, and workers safe must be taken seriously and is personal for each of us. There have been hundreds of work zone crashes so far this year. Some directly involve workers or their equipment, others impact drivers and their pedestrians. Drivers can prevent these crashes by following the rules of the road. This means that they should drive at posted speed limits, not drive distracted or impaired, and moving over and slowing down when approaching active work zones. We all have a responsibility here. Motorists must change their driving behaviors, and the transportation industry must develop and implement changes in our work zones to make them safer for workers and motorists. This is why I'm extremely proud of the work of the Governor's Work Zone Safety Group and what it's done over these past few months, and I'd like to thank Terry Seuss, the Deputy Administrator at SHA, and the members of the Roadway Operations Subcommittee for their hard work over the past several months. These recommendations will help foster safer driving practices across work zones and all Maryland roadways. These changes will create safer operational environments and will promote a culture of safety on our roadways. Again, I want to thank the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and all the members of the Work Zone Safety Group for their insights, recommendations, and commitment to highway safety, and particularly work zone safety. I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Chrissy Nizer, Administrator of the Motor Vehicle Administration and the Governor's Highway Safety Representative, to speak on behalf of the Driver Behavior Subcommittee.
Thank you so much, Administrator Pines, and I want to echo the thanks for the leadership of Governor Moore and Lieutenant Governor Miller. It's so important to put a spotlight on these issues, and you truly have done this. The Driver Behavior Subcommittee was focused on exactly that, changing driver behavior and what change we can make to what we do every day when we're behind the wheel. We know it's the same causes of crashes and fatalities year after year. The good news is each and every one of us can do something about it. There's no more time to talk about it. We have to change our behavior. The common phrase that continued to come up during our subcommittee meetings was the idea of a need for a culture shift. There was a time when it was common to maybe wave as a driver let you in, to thank them for their courtesy. Unfortunately, we don't see that anymore. We see more aggression, we see more speed, we see that dangerous behavior, and that includes related to our pedestrians and certainly our work zone workers. We hope that we've hit the pinnacle of this problem and that all of us can commit to that culture of safety and go back to being respectful to one another. The recommendations on behalf of the Driver Behavior Subcommittee reflect the need for drivers to take a moment and learn about the consequences of their dangerous driving behavior and be the driver who saves lives. Recommendations that were endorsed by the group include developing a new multifaceted education campaign that will reach Marylanders throughout the state through high-profile leadership, new alert systems, and improved educations for teens on their provisional license. We plan on aggressively partnering with stakeholders to ensure that work zone safety isn't an afterthought in discussions about how we can improve roadway safety, but instead front and center. And we plan on continuing to work with our partners at State Highway Administration, Transportation Authority, and the local jurisdictions and the legislature to ensure that if drivers do continue to drive irresponsibly, they face appropriate penalties. I'd like to once again thank all the work group members who you see behind us for their great work, their creativity, and their passion on this issue. And it's now my honor to turn it over to our working group chair, Lieutenant Governor Miller. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with Governor Moore, to all the work zone safety group members, and to each of you. I'd like to thank the entire MDOT team for their extraordinary leadership through this effort, and to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the collective time, knowledge, and expertise provided by all the members of the Work Zone Safety Group. Standing with me are federal, state, local transportation experts, engineers, law enforcement officers, contractors, emergency responders, labor leaders, flaggers, and construction workers. These men and women play a critical role in ensuring that our roadways are safe and efficient while placing themselves in harm's way every day. I know this because I'm a transportation engineer, and I've seen way too many times the close calls during my experience and how dangerous work zones can be. So a great big shout out to these remarkable members of the work group who have worked and provided an invaluable service to our state by identifying ways to prioritize safety of workers on the job and safety of motorists and all users on the road. Today, we are proud to announce the recommendations of the Work Zone Safety Group. Let me tell you why this is so important. This year alone, there were over 1,100 crashes along Maryland work zones. That's more than 3 crashes every single day. In fact, just yesterday in Cecil County, a sign flagger at a construction site was struck by a vehicle and had to be transferred to an emergency room. By and large, we know that a majority of Marylanders practice safe driving habits. But for those who are driving too fast, driving distracted, driving impaired, and driving aggressively, they place other people's lives in harm's way and at risk. Earlier this year, on March 22nd, a vehicle traveling on Interstate 695 crashed into a construction work site, tragically killing 6 Maryland highway workers. Among them were Malin Simmons II and his son, Malin Simmons III, or MJ. today we are joined by two of their family members, Kim Simmons and her daughter Marissa Simmons and her husband Michael. Kim and Marissa and Michael, thank you for being here today. On behalf of the state of Maryland, we grieve with you. Your loss is our loss. The staggering rate of work zone crashes in the state of Maryland is an unacceptable reality. Even life lost on our roadways, just one life loss is one too many. Even a close call like Howard's is one too many of a close call. This is why, with the greatest sense of urgency, Governor Moore created the Work Zone Safety Group. This group has met over 18 times and now has a comprehensive recommendations that include legislative, executive, and regulatory actions. They also include feedback from the public, where 2,200 Marylanders responded to a public survey that was released in September regarding work zone safety. So this is our recommendations right now. Number one, increasing public awareness through aggressive educational campaigns to alert drivers of the consequences of unsafe driving behaviors. Number two, strengthening enforcement by modifying existing statute to authorize the use of unmanned cameras at work zones, which will eliminate existing barriers and allow us to install more cameras along work zones. Greater presence of law enforcement and increasing penalties for speeding near road construction sites. You know, currently Maryland's speeding violation around construction zones is $40, the lowest in the nation. In Texas, speeding in work zones can be up to $1,000 when workers are present. Number three, establishing greater safety protocols at construction sites, which include lowered temporary speed limits at construction zones, providing training and safety meetings for workers, and more on-site inspections, and ensuring the visibility of workers through the use of personal protection equipment and other safety measures. With this framework of recommendations by the Work Zone Safety Group, the Moore-Miller administration is taking necessary steps to make our work zones safer for workers, for drivers, and all users of our roadways. Through purposeful educational campaign that fosters safety and strict enforcement, we can bring culture change in driver behavior near construction work zones, because every one of us plays a part in work zone safety. Every one of us has a responsibility to ensure drivers and all who work at construction sites reach their most important destination, home. Now I'd like to introduce my friend, our Governor, Wes Moore.
Good afternoon. I first want to take a moment and a moment of both pause and privilege to thank my partner in this work, and also our chair, our Lieutenant Governor, Aruna Miller. You know, as a state and as a society, it should not take tragedy or near tragedy to prompt change that is necessary and long overdue. But I remember conversations early with our Lieutenant Governor about the fact that we've got to do more and we've got to do better about making sure that our workers are protected, that people who are out every single day serving our society, that they have all the protections that their service demands and requires. And the Lieutenant Governor was very clear earlier on. She said, I want to chair. I want to take this on. And so I want to say thank you for your leadership and for your push to make sure that our state every single day can and will be better. And also, I want to thank everyone who here is standing with us today. These are all people who are all working their full-time jobs. These are all people who are still living their lives, but all people who decided that to take a little bit of time, in many cases in the amount of meetings, a lot of time, out of your lives to make sure that our society is going to be better. We cannot thank you enough. Your leadership and your service and the importance of it, it cannot be overstated. And so God bless you all for taking this important mission on, and thank you for all you do. And I do want to be very clear about what it took in order for us to get here. Because the recommendations that we were saying today are a result of months of discussion from highway safety experts, from roadway workers, from law enforcement, from the private sector, from unions, from people who have been directly impacted by irresponsible driving. Their recommendations will allow our state to build a new approach to road safety, one where everybody is involved, everybody is engaged, and everybody is accountable. The Lieutenant Governor and her team have ensured that this group moved with speed and moved with precision. And I want to thank all the members for all the contributions, because this is what partnership looks like. And this is what's required in order for us to make real and sustainable progress. These recommendations, they'll save lives. And we have no time to spare in order to make sure that these recommendations are actually actionable. And it's in that spirit that I am proud to announce that we will begin implementing a few of these recommendations starting right now. We are going to increase the presence of Maryland State Troopers in work zones. We are going to coordinate with local law enforcement to boost additional officer enforcement presence in work zones. We're going to collaborate with our partners at the Maryland State Department of Education to implement a new work zone safety campaign in our schools. And I'm directing the Maryland Motor Vehicle Administration's Highway Safety Office to provide $500,000 for new work zone safety initiatives. This money will go toward supporting the educational and awareness projects that are necessary to shift the culture surrounding workforce safety. Now, everything that I just mentioned is just a down payment. Changing culture doesn't happen overnight. And I also know this: changing culture is also going to require changes of Maryland drivers. And so I also want to say what we said before to all of our drivers on our roadways: slow down, follow the laws, and drive as if it's a member of your family who are working in these work zones. Our administration takes work zone safety incredibly seriously, and our work together has only begun. So now is the time that we are going to move in partnership. Now is the time we are going to continue taking this seriously. And now is the time we're going to work together to make sure that our roads are safer for everyone in our state, including and particularly the people whose job it is to make sure that those roads are easier to navigate for every single Marylander. So thank you all for making us better. And I'm calling on all Marylanders to do your part as well. Thank you so much.
Some of the recommendations require legislative approval. The fines from 40 to, I believe, 250 will require a change. Do you think that will happen easily? Any obstacles there in getting that change, do you think, or should that get unanimous support?
So I think nothing that happens legislatively is easy, but it's going to happen. We will be, as we get into session, we will be introducing a package that will come from our office. And it will include many of the recommendations that we've laid out that will need some form of legislative fixes and legislative adjustments. But we know that we plan on working in partnership with the legislature, both the House and the Senate, because we plan on being back here in this group. We said to them before, we hope they'll all be back here in short order to actually sign bills and legislation that's going to continue to reinforce what we did today.
And what would you say directly to, I mean, you have some here, some of the families, workers out there who are out there putting their lives on the line essentially to repair roads and such. What do you say to them directly, a message to them about the work here done and about protecting them as they watch and listen to you talk?
So I'd say two things, and one, knowing that we have families like the Simmons family, and again, we cannot tell you enough how much we appreciate you, and this work would not be done without you, and we're grateful. You know, I'd say thank you to all those who have been involved in this work already. We would not have come to these recommendations if it were not for people who are actually working in the work zones and families who have been directly impacted, who have been a full part of this entire process. And so to all those, I would say thank you, because your voice has not only been heard, but it is now helping to shape policy and is helping to shape the way that our state moves and functions. And to those who are out there working every single day, literally as we speak, right now, working to make our roads better for everybody, I would say not only thank you for your service, but with this team and with this administration, you have a collaboration that has been working around the clock and will continue working around the clock to make sure that your work environment is safe and that your work environment is secure.
Governor, 7 weeks ago, there was a press conference in Glen Burnie. It talked about roughly 300 work zones in Maryland. Is the intent to put automated cameras at every work zone on every Maryland highway?
I mean, the intent is to have a holistic review of all of our roadways and all of our work zones. You know, we want to make sure that as we're pulling the recommendations together and thinking about which recommendations apply to which areas, that it is a full analysis, that it's a comprehensive analysis, and that every single one of our work zones are being thought about as we're actually implementing the specific policies.
I just have one question. With the legislative session that's starting up soon, Republican leadership unveiled their public safety and do not crime legislation package this week. Have you seen the details of their plan, and when can we expect to see it?
No, we're going through the recommendations that they've laid out. We were not informed of their recommendations before they enlisted the recommendations. And listen, our administration, we look forward to working with anybody and everybody who wants to provide constructive recommendations as to we can make our community safe. There is no higher priority than public safety for this administration. There's no higher priority than making sure that people can feel safe in their own neighborhoods and in their own communities. And I look forward to working with anybody, regardless of political party, to be able to make sure that we're putting together proper legislation, making adjustments on legislation that need adjustments, but to ensure that our communities are going to be safe for everybody to be able to live and exist in.
If I could just ask one off-topic question. The 2024 presidential election is coming up. There's been a lot of talk about President Biden, whether or not he should stay in the race. A lot of polls about his age. Time is running out for that to happen, but is there any scenario in which President Biden can step out, other candidates would step in, and you would step in and run for the Democratic nomination next year? Would that ever happen next year in any scenario?
President Biden is running for re-election, and President Biden will win re-election.
Do you not seek the nomination if he steps in?
President Biden is going to win re-election. You know, and I want to be clear, and we are going to do everything in our power to ensure that he wins re-election. And it's both because we know what's at stake, but also if you think about what's happened in the state of Maryland just in our time, and the partnership that we have with the White House, the partnership that we have with the Biden administration. You know, just in the most recent weeks, we've announced initiatives that are resulting over $267 million that's going towards broadband expansion and Wi-Fi expansion all throughout our state, because we want our entire state wired with broadband and Wi-Fi by the end of our first term. That just in these past months, we've announced billions of dollars, over $7 billion that's going towards roads and bridges and construction and infrastructure. that just in the past months, that we have announced new investments that are taking place in things like how we're going to support the Red Line. And now we're having an FBI building that's going to be coming to the state of Maryland, which will result in over $4 billion of economic activity. That will be over 7,500 jobs. That right now in the state of Maryland, new numbers just came out, Maryland has the lowest unemployment rate in the entire country. We are moving as a state. We're moving in partnership with the Biden administration. And so we are going to be unapologetic and aggressive in our support of the re-election of President Biden and Vice President Harris. And we know it's because if you see what's happening right now in the state of Maryland in partnership with the Biden administration, imagine if we can get another 4 years of this.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you all.